Action.
When communication researchers investigate differences in communication behaviors, they clarify whether they are studying these behaviors from either a trait or a state approach. A trait approach is examining how individuals interact the majority of the time. When researchers adopt a trait approach, they attempt to identify consistent and enduring ways that people behave. A state approach is examining how individuals communicate in a particular situation or in a context. For example, an interpersonal communication researcher might examine how individuals feel right before they ask someone out on a date. Researchers might measure their state of anxiety to determine if this affects his or her ability to advance a request for a date. Unfortunately, communication scholars are more interested in studying personality traits because they relate to communication variables in a number of different ways. For example, knowing and learning about an individual who is highly apprehensive about communicating with other people and their willingness to communicate. Communication apprehension and willingness to communicate are two related communication-based personality traits. Communication apprehension is an individual's level of state of anxiety or fear with either a real or anticipated communication with another person or persons. Communication apprehension can be measured by the Personal Report of Communication Apprehension, also known as PRCA, and this was developed by James Wachowski in 1978. The PRCA is a 24-item 5-point Richter type measurement that assesses an individual's communication apprehension in general. It covers 4 different areas. It covers public, small group, meeting, and interpersonal communication, or interpersonal situations. Individuals scoring high on the PRCA are anxious about communicating with other people and will generally avoid interaction altogether. Therefore, they are less communicatively competent, less disclosive, and are more lonely and stressed to those compared to those who scored low on the PRCA. Unlike communication apprehension, willingness to communicate does not assess fear or anxiety, but on the individual's tendency to avoid or approach communication with other people. Willingness to communicate can be measured by the willingness to communicate scale. It's a 20-item measure that assesses an individual's willingness to interact with different people in different situations. Individuals completing the willingness to communicate scale indicate the percent of time they would choose to communicate in public during a meeting within a group with a stranger and in situations with acquaintances. People who have lower willingness to communicate are less likely to initiate gossip with other people. Not surprisingly, highly apprehensive individuals are more likely to score low on willingness to communicate, and those who score high on willingness to communicate will most likely score low in communication apprehension. Now that I've covered the comparison of state and trait approach and the 2 related communication-based personality traits, Shireen will talk about aggressive behavior.
There are 2 types of aggressive behavior, destructive and constructive. I will be discussing destructive behavior as Josh will be discussing constructive behavior. There are 2 parts to it, hostility and verbal. Now, to begin with, the definition of a destructive aggressive behavior is a form of aggression that is capable of damaging an individual's self-esteem. And the first part, hostility, usually expresses irritability, negativism, resentment, and suspicion using symbols. An example of this would be someone that went in for a job interview and didn't get the job. This person would react in this way. I'm so angry I didn't get the part. I blame the boss for not giving it to me. Hostile people are usually depressed and have low self-esteem, which affects their relationships with other people, including specifically their committed romantic relationships, because they don't know how to communicate and they automatically just assume the worst in other people. The other part to destructive aggressive behavior is verbal aggression. Verbal aggression could be very bad for any type of relationship because it's a tendency to attack of a person's self-concept or like addressing the person in any other way other than their personal arguments that they're having. So this could be a cause of social behavior or something called ASD. ASD is an argument skill deficiency. And this is basically when a person is having an argument with someone else and they don't know how to return the argument well enough, they automatically start to make fun of they attack their physical appearance by teasing or swearing and just get very aggressive in their tone of voice. There's a 20-point aggressive scale, and the higher that a person scores on this scale, the more likely that they will make more threats, and it can sometimes end up violent in relationships, which would really destroy verbally aggressive behavior can really destroy a person's relationship. The college students that score highly on this usually are at an academic risk in school. So it is important for a person to realize that they have this deficiency or that they have verbally aggressive traits in them, and that way they can try to retain friends using them. Now that I have talked about the destructive aggressive behavior, Josh will discuss constructive aggressive behavior.
Thank you, Shri. I'll be discussing the topic of constructive aggressive behavior. Constructive aggressive behavior is sort of like an assertive critique to improve one's communication skills, while at the same time they're not putting that person down. The picture here is just to symbolize how aggressive behavior can feel to the person being criticized. Constructive aggressive behavior is considered more as an active type of behavior because it's more proactive than it is passive. And now I will discuss 3 different aspects of constructive aggressive behavior: argumentativeness, assertiveness, and effective orientation. The first topic I'll discuss is argumentativeness. According to Infant and Ranker, argumentativeness is a general trait predisposed within individuals in communication situations where they discuss controversial topics and they take